using a cycle lane around what looked like a rather large obstacle.
Gets his head down, he's in a time trialing position at the moment.
This is the Domestiques, presented by BikeExchange Cycling.
Hello from the Domestiques. Thanks for joining us. It is Monday, July the 25th, and we are here for Black Sheep Cycling Apparel. Well, what a huge day it's been in Paris. The Tour de France comes to a grinding halt. At the same time, the inaugural women's race, the Tour de Femmes, starts its journey under a blazing hot sun in the French capital. It really was a huge day of celebration. And I had the opportunity of witnessing on the spot both events. It was wonderful. The men and the women. Thousands, tens of thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of people there. And Matilda, Tills, I've got to say, I thought about you today. I was on location to see the women start their Tour de France journey. There was so much anticipation. They were proud. It was a real proud day for women cycling, and I was privileged to be there. And I can genuinely say to you, Tills, I thought of you today. And I know you're not here in Paris. You're in a cold city in Australia, but I wish you were here. We're really.
Jeez, don't break her heart.
I know, just wind it up. No, thanks so much, Mike. I appreciate the thoughts. And I think, look, I was, yes, on the ground here in Australia and felt that from here. So I can only imagine how it felt for the women who were over there. And I think also just so many of the women who have come and gone within the sport. I think everyone will be coming back to it to watch. And, you saw even in an interview with Amanda Spratt on the start line, there was emotion and tears, and just, I think for so many of the women who have been there for a few years, they never thought that they'd get here. There was always so much talk. La course was always a challenge. It was always a one day, and I think they can't believe that not only was the yellow jersey awarded last night, but they get another 7 stages after today. And I'm all in, and I'm not there on the ground, but I'm certainly feeling it back here, and it's amazing.
Well, I had a great day for many reasons, and one of those reasons was to track down my fellow domestique in Lee Hollywood Turner, and I can honestly say I was in the same place, in the same city, breathing the same air as you, Hollywood. What a moment that was.
Oh, yeah, what a great day. I don't know how you found me. I was sort of trying to dress inconspicuous. Yellow glasses, yellow shirt, yellow slides and yellow shorts, yellow phone, everything yellow. But no, it was honestly such a wonderful day, starting with the women's, the atmosphere when they first roared onto the Champs-Élysées. I can't pronounce it. It was just the buzz. Today reminded me of 2018 when I went to the West Coast versus Collingwood Grand Final, walking to the MCG. You could just feel the atmosphere in the air, the tension. It was just, you could cut it with a knife. It was just so exciting. I just hadn't experienced that before, and it was just so good to be there. I was pinching myself.
I'm not a big AFL fan, but I'm sure today was much bigger than that.
No, it was massive today. Like looking up from where we went up to the 9th floor and looking down across the whole boulevard and just seeing the crowds 10 deep and just a roar when the riders roared up and down. It was just, man, I just hadn't experienced it. It was fantastic. It made the Tour Down Under look like a Caulfield Carnegie crit on a rainy summer's day. That's what it made the Tour Down Under look like. It was just so big. It was the big show.
Now, just briefly describe your day, Hollywood, because after watching at ground level, you took me upstairs to the 9th level of a building overlooking the Champs-Élysées, and we had a few drinks, we had a few nibblies. I had to leave early because I was getting flustered, hot, tired, but you stayed there until, 11, 12 o'clock at night?
No, but to the end, and then we went across to the BikeExchange team bus and had more fun there. So look, I was lucky through Giant Bicycles. I ran into the one of the marketing guys yesterday just out in the street, which again, just luck went my way. And then, Ali and I got invited up there, and we just had a wonderful day. And I spoke to a lot of the giant global people that I'd met over the years, because obviously I've tied in with giant bikes. So it was like pinching myself. I was like a kid at the Royal Melbourne Show. I was just so excited. Oh man, I can't explain it.
But listen, you told us off air just before we came on that you spoke to Jerry Ryan, the white knight of Australian cycling, and some big guns. Michael Matthews was there. Who else was there? Give us the scoop.
They were all there, but I spoke to Jerry, which is nice. We had my friend from Giant, Stefano, introduced me to Jerry. I saw Bling and thanked him for being on the podcast, and I met Brent, who's the general manager of Team BikeExchange. I interviewed him, which is on my Instagram now, and I was just pinching myself. They were all there, all the teams, the riders, and I was just sort of soaking it up and taking it all in. I just couldn't believe it.
Tills, I reckon they were pinching him too.
Yeah, what was the vibe there? Was it a successful tour for Orica? How was it for them? How did they rate it?
Definitely, because because I interviewed Brenton, which is on my Instagram, and definitely they won 2 stages and had 4 second places. So it was definitely a success for them. And Jerry had a got you moment to me. He said to me, why do they call you Hollywood? And I said, oh, well, have a look at me. And he goes, I know that. Gotcha. And I went, yeah, you got me. Fair enough. So, but no, the mood around the bus was jovial. They were relieved that it had finished. Michael Matthews is there with his wife. He was exhausted. They were relieved that it finished, but there was a sense of, it was definitely successful, and they were all happy. And, it was a really good vibe around the Green Edge team bus, BikeExchange.
Well, the news today is that Jerry Ryan has extended his relationship with the Green Edge squad, BikeExchange, JK, whatever you want to call it, till the end of 2025. So there'll be an Aussie registered team in the men's tour, the world circuit, until then. And Bling is going to stay on. So that's good news too. So it's great news. He's got a good relationship there. He's obviously getting paid well. I'm not exactly sure what the budget will be moving forward. But I know that I've noticed that a couple of the big names from years gone past haven't necessarily been replaced. Bling is one that has replaced the likes of Adam Yates and some of the other foreign riders. But I think they're focusing, correct me if I'm wrong, Hollywood, they're focusing on young Australian talent coming through?
Yes, true, but I do know, which unfortunately I can't say, but there is...
Yes, you can. Tell us.
Unfortunately, I can't. I'll be killed. But I did learn a few things today. So to put it this way, the future's looking bright for BikeExchange, that's for sure. Definitely.
Jerry Ryan, the guy needs to be knighted. Like, I know we've spoken about Orica and Green Edge quite a bit, BikeExchange here, but the if you think about the Wiggins and those sort of people who contributed to cycling, Jerry Ryan, I hate to think of where Australian cycling would be without him. He's putting in at least 15 million euro per year. His time that he's had at the tour has been, probably over 150 million euro that he's put in over 10 years for that team. Like, it's unbelievable. And it's been great to see some of the signings he's had. And I know we've been rightly critical of some of the talent that they've let go, but you never know where Lucas Hamilton's going to go to. They had the choice out of Jai, Ben and Lucas, and they chose Lucas, and I think he's just a little bit slower to develop. So, it's amazing to see them reinvesting in Australian talent, and it looks like there's a little bit of groundswell again. So it's feeling very positive at the moment.
Well, Jerry's got a lot of businesses, and he treats the Green Edge consortium as a passion, as a hobby, an expensive one. So long live Jerry Ryan, and let's knight him. I don't think we do knighthoods in Australia anymore, but let's do something to just praise what he's done. Honestly, look, let's look back on the last 3 weeks, and we will focus on the women very shortly. But let's look back on the last 3 weeks of this Tour de France. It has been the best Tour de France in my time, and I've been following this great race since the early 1990s. It's had everything. It's had speed. It's had excitement. The stages have never let up. The riders have had very little time to actually relax and have a chat to each other. apart from today, obviously, the final stage. But what a Tour de France, full on, full gas from the get-go in Copenhagen.
Yeah, definitely. And it was just like even though the GC didn't really change a lot, like it was sort of Pog and then it went to Vingegaard and it stayed that way. Normally you'd say, oh, that would be boring because it wasn't a lot of changes, but every stage it was like a chapter of a book. It was just different. It was an exciting finish. And like even that one, not the one before the time trial where the jumbo rider won, the Frenchman, like the call from Carlton Kirby was just insane. It was so exciting, and it was just like meant to be a sort of a nothing stage, and it was even that delivered in the end. It was like watching Melrose Place when you were young. Every episode was exciting. You couldn't wait for the next episode because it was always a twist and a turn. It was so exciting. I mean, Matilda, you're a bit younger than me, so you probably can't remember Melrose Place.
Hollywood, every time you mention Carlton Kirby, is that a man crush moment for you?
I just think he is the best commentator. Like, because I'm over here, I got to experience the GCN coverage, and it was just first class with him, Rob Hatch, McEwen, Lloyd. It was just such good commentary, because I'm into my commentary, and it was just the way they build it up to the climax, and it's so exciting. It was really, really good to listen, because I would ride and would come back and watch the last sort of couple of hours on TV because it's we're in the right time zone. It was just so exciting to watch the GCN coverage. It made the race so much better.
Tell us, how fitting was it that a Danish rider would win the Tour and basically bookend this Tour de France? It started in Copenhagen in the Grand Depart, and it finished with a Danish victory. Quite fitting, I guess.
Yeah, I would have loved to have seen what was happening in Denmark over those last few stages, and the crowds going wild. And I imagine it would have been like an Irish pub during the rugby. But yeah, it's just very fitting, and I think just showed the investment there to start the Tour there, and only grows the sport exponentially. We know what the Cadel Evans effect for Australia for that period of time, but then to have had the Tour there, and then to have had such an incredible role model as well, a family man, a quietly spoken guy, and but handled the heat really well, and just a great sportsman.
Well, just on Jonas Vingegaard, 6 months before joining the Jumbo-Visma team in 2019, he was working part-time in a Danish factory. You know what his job was? He was gutting, cleaning, packing fish. Into ice-filled boxes. And before that, he worked at a fish auction. And I read that he credits those days of waking up at 4 a.m. and all the hard manual labour involved in the shivering cold, and Denmark is a cold country, with helping him to get to where he is today, and that is on top of the cycling world. So this is only his second Tour de France. He finished runner-up last year. He's finished no worse than second in 2 years. He's an overnight success as far as I'm concerned. And the way he challenged and competed against Pogacar, we're going to see that duel for many years to come.
Yeah, definitely. And there's other younger riders coming through. Remember, you've got the one from Quick Step who was injured. You got Ineos has got a good young rider. There's so much talent. The talent pool of these young guns is so good. And each year, I can't wait to the next Tour de France, because it's just the big show, the Tour de France.
Yeah, I think that's certainly what's coming through. Is everyone's already G'd for the next tour, and as you say, Hollywood, there's a lot of names that missed out this tour. That was the one thing I feel like was only slightly missing, was even though the main story was incredible, there was really just one core story there around Jumbo versus Tadej. The sprinters had their odd moment of getting to shine, but there was certainly some personalities in Mark Cavendish, particularly Alaphilippe, who are missing from this tour, and of course the crashes that took out some big personalities. So I know that everyone's already G'd, and it'll be really interesting how everyone comes into next year's tour, the races that they look to do in the lead up. They usually like to avoid one another quite a bit in that last lead up into the race. So yeah, I think it can be even better.
Well, I was very disappointed for Caleb Ewan. He did make it to the finish line, but there's no shame in winning the Lanterne Rouge just to make it home. I mean, he's done something that something like 41 riders failed to achieve, and that was finish in Paris. I read a stat today that only 135 riders finished the Tour, which is the fewest number since 2000, 22 years ago. So for Caleb to win the
Wow.
Lanterne Rouge, good on you, Caleb. It's not the yellow jersey, it's not the green jersey or the white jersey, but you'll be remembered for coming last. Wouldn't it have been great if he won the stage with the Lanterne Rouge next to his name?
Look, I don't think there's not much celebration, I think, happening at the Lotto bus this evening.
Yeah, I wonder what the future is for Caleb at Lotto, because I remember just a few years ago when he did arrive after being at Green Edge for so many years that he was number one priority and he delivered. Remember all those stage wins? That love, that TLC wasn't there this year by Lotto.
No, definitely not. Is he out of contract or is he still in contract?
I'm
or
not
what's
sure.
The
situation?
thing is,
You've got me on the spot. There's the
Sorry.
bus, throw me under it, and you've done it.
a lot of these riders have clauses in their contracts, so if their team doesn't make the World Tour, that they can renegotiate and get out of their contract. So I imagine not that Caleb would ever fathom that he would be in that position, but I imagine that's what would be in his contract. And I think a lot of teams would look to pick him up, and I'm imagining he would go elsewhere purely just based on the fact of the team morale, the energy in that team, the focuses, and they need a real reset.
But I guess the other takeout from the Tour this year is that generational change. We've spoken about it over the last 3 weeks, and many people have spoken about the Pog versus Vingegaard duel. And, you know, like I said a few weeks ago, throw in Egan Bernal, who won the Tour in 2019, and we have got one hell of an interesting couple of years coming up. And having said that, what about Thomas, Geraint Thomas? The fact that he's 14 years older than these guys and he climbed onto the podium today, third place was as good as a win for a 36-year-old. You agree?
Yeah, definitely. Like 36 and getting on the podium, and he did it tough. It was, it was impressive. But I still, sorry, Geraint, those glasses you wear are horrible. Like the Oakley jawbones went out of fashion like in 2017 or even earlier. Why are you still wearing them? They're horrible. Can someone get to him and ask him why?
Well, I wore glasses on a post that I made this morning when I rode my bike through the streets of Paris at 7 a.m. And the first thing you noticed was how the style was wrong. Again, you picked it out. You don't look at the subject or the topic. You look at what I'm wearing. I hate that.
Well, you had your glasses
Mike,
in your
I know.
helmet, which is fine, but they were all crooked. Like,
I know.
what's
Mike,
going on? Is this the first time you've ridden a bike?
Let's move on. Let's talk about Wout van
Mike,
Aert.
you look like...
Tills, I want your take on this. Now, Wout van Aert, apart from Vingegaard, perhaps, he was the most dominant rider of the Tour. And we know he can sprint, he can time trial, he can climb the highest mountains. He smashed the green jersey competition, almost doubled it to his nearest rival. And there's talk that one day he may have a crack at the GC in a Grand Tour. Yet, what really bugged me, immediately after the time trial on the penultimate stage, after clinching a third stage win, he was questioned by the reporters about whether his performances was dope-fueled. Now, Wout retorted by saying, "I don't even want to answer that question. It's a shit question." And you know what? I don't blame him. He's damned if he does, he's damned if he doesn't. This is a clean era of cyclists, I believe. And even though they're going faster, they don't want to. They've learned from the past. They don't want to fill themselves with doping-fueled products. Tills, what's your take on that?
Well, I think Tills has just dropped out for a second, so I'll jump in. But what I agree with you, and honestly, Mike, I would be devastated if someone from Jumbo or UAE went positive. It would break my heart because I really do believe that it is clean now, and it would be so disappointing if that bubble bursts for me. I did see that Paul Kimmage, the guy who used to spar with Armstrong, said something that, they were saying how it's clean now, and he just wrote bullshit. But look, he's a bit sour grapes. But I would be devastated if one of the guys went pos, because it just seems like it is clean now. Like you said, Mike, I think they've learnt from their not they've learnt, but they've looked at the past and they've moved on from that. So I hope that is correct. But going on about you saying about Wout being a GC contender, I used to think that, but then when I saw them live today, after the stage around where the buses were, and I saw them together, the body is so different. Like Vingegaard looks like a POW, and Wout looks sort of normal. And I that's when I thought, geez, their body shape is so different. Like I just thought, nah, to be GC, you've got to be, borderline anorexic. It's just their body shape in real life when you see them. It's like, honestly, like POWs.
Yeah, but that wasn't the case in the Miguel Indurain era. 5-time winner, early 90s. He was about 6'3". I can't remember his weight, but he was a tall dude. And Wout is about your height, 6'2", 6'3". He doesn't have the same physique, but he's certainly got the power and the stamina.
We're talking about different eras. Miguel, I love him. Miguel Indurain, I love him, but...
Don't say it.
A different. I won't. I can't. It's blasphemy. It's like breaking the third commandment. Do not use the Lord's name in vain. I will not say it. Tills, are they clean? Oh, Tills, you're dropping the wheel today. Tills is dropping the wheel. Tills, you're back. You're back on the wheel.
Bloody Brisbane just got 3G. They've only just joined the Wi-Fi, so I'm fucking bloody struggling today. Sorry, team. I'm letting the team down. I'm off it.
Hold the wheel, Tills. Hold the wheel.
I can't. I'm just seeing you right away at the moment. But I caught little bits of that, so you can cut me out later. But there's Walt will not be GC unless they change the course, because the thing is, everything that makes Walt great is because he's not GC. So he doesn't want to ride defensively. He doesn't want to have to go all in on one stage. He wants to go all in on 21 stages. So it will be interesting, though. I think there was enormous relief in that Jumbo team. The fact that Walt didn't even contest today's sprint was very surprising.
Yes.
But I think that just showed that you've got to remember 2 years ago, the devastation that happened in Jumbo when they lost the yellow jersey on the finals, the TT stage, like that haunts you for a lifetime. And I feel, for the team riders who have then gone on to leave the team. But yeah, I think, he was happy. He was so happy for Vingegaard and to be a part of that. I can't see him going elsewhere, just because even with money, it's evident that Jumbo have the best staff, the best program, and enormous positive energy, and you don't want to leave that.
No, and just think about this Tour de France. They won 5 stages. They won the yellow jersey. Six stages. The yellow jersey, the green jersey, the polka dot jersey. Like, that is just complete domination.
I just want to correct you on something. It's not polka dot, it's polka dot.
Polka dot, is it?
Now, can you say Champs-Elysees?
Champs-Elysees.
He's trying to get you back about those sunnies where he looked like he'd had a few Sherpas.
I know. He'll always get me on speech. I'm bloody hopeless.
The Domestiques by Black Sheep Cycling.
You're listening to the Domestiques. Tills, let's talk about the women's event today. History in the making. I was there, as I said earlier. I was proud to be there. And the inaugural winner was the Dutch lady. I could ask Hollywood to pronounce her name, but I won't. It's, you tell us how to pronounce it. Lorena Wiebes?
Yeah, Lorena Wiebes. Yeah, you've got it bang on. Yeah, Lorena Wiebes. Yeah, she's she was probably the hot favourite. She was going into it. She's rarely been beaten in a flat sprint. Well, you guys were there. The Champs-Elysees, people don't actually realise, is actually quite a hard course. It's got cobbles. It's slightly uphill, that finish. But it's she wins at times with hardly getting out of the saddle. But Marianne Vos, it would have been, you couldn't have written a better script if she was to take that first stage. But she is looking fantastic. The fact that she was able to be there with Lorena Wiebes shows a lot of positive signs, and probably the best stories that came out. I'm not sure if you guys saw on the finish when you were on the ground there, but there was actually a 1 point for the QOM, the Queen of the Mountain. So there's just a random point of a small incline. And so Vimarcus from Park Hotel, Valcar Park Hotel, took that, and she actually almost posted up. It was a little bit like Condacourt, in the men's KOM. But yeah, she won that, and she gets to wear that jersey pretty much for the next 3 stages. So to get up on the stage in Paris, she's not a pure climber. It was a fantastic moment during the race, but you saw a huge contest just in the sprint points, and I think that's what's really exciting. There's a lot of riders around similar ability, and the best thing is, unlike the men's tour, and there's a lot of comparisons we can go through, but we've seen these women race one another a lot throughout the year. So we come in with a lot more knowledge of what they're like against one another. So yeah, it should be a really exciting stage, and for what was just a sprint stage today, really set it up for how good the tour is going to be.
Well, I tend to ask the question every year when these big races come around, Tills. The Dutch, they're just so dominant. We've got Liebers today. We had Marianne Vos in second place. Annemieke van Vleuten's there. De Breggen. The Dutch is just so strong. What makes them so strong, and can they be toppled?
Well, now I fully realise, having just been to the Netherlands and obviously Belgium, but the women, like, you turn up to these races and just a local race and there's 150 women, and they've all got their elbows out. It's a fully closed road. They grow up on racing cobbles. They grow up racing in these laneways. It's hard racing, but they also... It's the coverage, Tommo. Like, I know that when I started triathlon, I did that because I knew triathlon women. I admired women within that sport. I didn't know any cyclists. I didn't see any cyclists. I didn't even know there was a future in cycling. And then where the sport has come in particularly the last 5 years, even with social media, the role that's played in creating these idols and telling the story of what's happening out there when there hasn't been live coverage, has been enormous. And the impact that today's stage had and will continue to have, and everyone wants to be a part of that. Every girl, every young woman who's involved in cycling wants to be a part of that. So it's just going to go from strength to strength because of that visibility.
Yeah, and people are asking why was only the last 2 hours of the coverage shown around the world today? Well, look, it's the first of hopefully a long journey. I can remember in 2003. When my former employer showed the first live coverage of the Tour de France. It was the final stage of the centenary year. And they only showed the last 2 hours, and you got to crawl before you can walk. It'll come. It will come. It won't be long before you do see every stroke of every pedal of every stage of every women's cycle world tour race.
Well, I hope so, because what you can understand is the start of the race is exciting, because that's when the break goes and you see the dynamics of the break going and coming back, then the right one sticking. So the start of the race is actually quite exciting, and then it's a middle bit that's okay, and then the end's obviously the end. But I like seeing it from the start, because I like to see the break forming and getting away. So hopefully it will get to that where we see, like with the men from kilometre 1, it's live and uninterrupted.
Tills, just back on your point about how strong the Dutch are and the fact that they train on these kinds of roads, at cobbles, etc. How can Australian, New Zealand riders learn from the Dutch? And are we a different breed? Do we train differently? What is it?
No, I think the women do get a really good opportunity. I know it's something that I've always tried to do in racing and training with a lot of the men, which enable you to have these big packs and sort of the stress of that bunch and the speed of that bunch. But yeah, nothing compares to actually getting over there. But I think, as you say, you've got to crawl before you walk and run and sprint, Tommo. So you've got to start. I think skill set is a massive one to start off with. You can't race these types of races without the confidence in the bunch. And then once you've, I guess, risen to the cream in the Australian peloton, then to take that overseas, whether that be starting in the US to get a bit more confidence, but certainly nothing matters unless you're getting results in Europe with these teams. So that's where they need to go. And, you know, the COVID period really stunted the growth in Australian cycling for a moment. No one could leave or take those sort of opportunities, and so you're really seeing a huge wave of Aussies over in Europe now, and then they're all starting to get signed up, which is really exciting as well.
Yeah. Well said. That's fantastic. Well, I'm looking forward to the next 7 stages. What do you make of the course? We know that the final stage is going to be an absolute belter when they climb up to the top of Belfi. But apart from that, they're going through the Champagne district, which can be up and down, quite undulating, quite pretty too. Tils, what do you make of the whole course?
Well, if
For a
there's going
first
to
up?
be, if there's going to be any stage you watch, it has to be stage 4. So stage 4 is the Strada Bianchi stage, if you want to call it. So it's full of gravel, some difficult climbs. It's not going to be where Annemiek wins, but it will be that age-old, you won't win the Tour there, but you could lose it. And I think that's where they're really going to try to put some of the GC contenders under pressure to see if they can get a buffer for those later stages. So this is a little bit like that men's Roubaix stage. Stage 4 is the stage to watch if you want to get a real grasp of what's happening in women's cycling, and then obviously the final stages will be where the GC really comes to the fore. But what I'm loving is that there's none of these smaller stages at the end, so the winner will unlikely be crowned until that very last stage.
Fantastic. Well, Hollywood, we'll leave it there. You were like a bloodhound today, just sniffing out everything around the traps that you were
mate,
at.
it's
A good day, huh?
It was just a great day, and Paris is a great city. And I just want to touch on something like I see yesterday or the day before in Melbourne, the Herald Sun ran this thing on banning scooters in the streets of Melbourne. And I looked today or yesterday and today in Paris, there's people riding around bikes, no helmets, kids, mums with kids, people on scooters on the footpath, on the road, all over the place, and there's no issues. It's just it just flows. It's no anger. It just works.
Yeah, absolutely, Hollywood, and you know, in Paris, if you're a cyclist, you are entitled to ride through a red light with caution, obviously. But that's how it is over here. It's a civilized city when it comes to motorists sharing the roads with bike riders.
It's so true. Like I'm just seeing scooters on the footpath on the road, and no one's got helmets on, and there's kids on them, mums with kids on them, just rolling through. And I'm just thinking, if this is in Melbourne, they'd be going mental. And you know, Neil Mitchell would be on his high horse, and here we are, a progressive city, and everyone's just riding no helmet through traffic all over the place, and it just works. I just wish we would see, the lawmakers or the governments would see that, the more people that ride bikes, the less cars that are on the road, which means there's less traffic. It's a win if there's more bikes.
I'm from Sydney. Neil Mitchell, should I know him?
Oh, he's maybe...
I'm only joking. I do know him.
Oh, good. All right, sorry.
The Ray Hadleys.
Let's look forward to the Tour de Femmes, and it's not
Yes.
the Femmes, it's not the Femme, it's the... I might get Gabriel Gartet back on, perhaps he can give us a correct pronunciation. It's the Tour de Femmes. Okay, look forward to talking to you two over the next few days. We've got some special guests coming up, and for you at home, share us, the Domestiques. We are going gangbusters. Everybody loves us. I saw it today on the Champs-Elysees. The French were crawling up to you, asking you, are you from the Domestiques, Hollywood? Why do
signing
they call you
autograph,
Hollywood?
taking photos. It was a good day out there, mate. Good day.
And I'm so happy to share it with you, Hollywood.
Thank
Tills,
you, mate.
wish you were
Next
here.
year-
We love you,
Next year,
Tills.
Tills, you're coming. They're
Thanks,
coming to watch
guys.
you race here next year, Tills.
All right, guys.
All
Thanks
right,
so
talk
much.
to you soon.
See you
Well done,
guys.
Liam.
You've been listening to the Domestiques. Bye for now.
Domestiques.
The Domestics by Black Sheep Cycling.